Welcome to the Kaiju Podcast. I'm Ralph.
I'm Jorge.
And today we're talking about Rodan, the 1956 original Toho movie. No Godzilla.
Yeah. No Godzilla. And... Go.
I was going to say...
I was like, wow, that was like our smoothest start, that first sentence.
Mm-hmm.
And then we froze up.
It was like a real show.
Yeah, a real yes.
So this came out only 2 years after the original Godzilla, during that kind of like 7-year hiatus from Godzilla. And I read this is the first Toho monster movie in color. And apparently it found a big audience in America. Apparently Rodan was a big deal in America. And it was released as Rodan the Flying Monster.
Yeah, one of the things that I was thinking on the way the story is laid out, and you don't reveal Rodan for a little while. Even when he's kind of like flying across the sky and they think he's a UFO. And the fact that they don't reveal him, I was like, how cool would it have been if there was no poster with a big bird on it that was like... that you had no idea what it was.
Yeah.
Until it got revealed later. I was like, that would have been so great. It's like when you first ever read like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. It starts out like a mystery, but the thing is we already know they're the same person. So just kind of like, oh yeah, I know where this is going. And so you're way ahead of people. And in the same way here, you're ahead of the people trying to figure out what this thing is.
Yeah. You mentioned last time, or was it both episodes? Was it King Kong versus Godzilla and Monster Zero, where they both had not a love triangle, but a main character in love with a brother sister?
I'm calling it, and now I'm referring it to as the Big Brother cock block.
Okay.
Because I think this is a recurring theme.
It happened again. It happened again in this movie, and I now I'm really going to be looking for it because I was like struggling to find another time for it to happen, but here we are. The next week later, this is the third in a row, right?
Boom. It's
and it starts off the movie.
I don't think it's going to be a scavenger hunt. I think it's going to be getting pretty easy.
Yeah.
First of all, I love this movie. I mean. I like this movie so much, and it fits right so great in the time period. I love it when it's the theme about it's because we were doing atomic testing and all that kind of stuff. I love all that business. In fact, there was something which when I looked up the movie and I was looking around, I don't know where this information come from. I didn't get it when I watched the movie. Maybe I missed it, but there was a thing that Godzilla was a result of American nuclear testing and Rodan was a result of Russian nuclear testing.
Oh, I didn't catch that at all.
Did you ever hear anything about that?
No.
There's at least this is just cursory, like on the Wikipedia page or whatever else I found on like that first page after I Googled it. But that's one of the things that they had said.
Is that why he's red?
I don't know. I don't know if that's why he's red. Oh, by the way, I was like flipping through that book I got at Monsterpalooza, which is just like a photo book by a monster designer. And he's got shots of like his little kid, like holding like the little Rodan doll.
Oh, yeah.
Like little models and stuff like that.
When we suggested to watch this movie, I was like, that's a solid movie. I remember liking it, but I haven't seen it in a long time. And when I started watching it this morning. I was like, oh man, this movie is awesome. There's so much.
It is so great.
There's so much crazy stuff in it, and it moves really fast. Like it's not a long movie, but there's
really, really great.
Like every scene is crazy. I think so far it might be my favorite, like non-monster story. Like I think the human stuff is interesting with the miners, and them hitting a pocket, and the mystery of miners getting killed, and they think it's because of this rivalry between two of the miners, but like the Yoshi's dead body comes back and is like super gross looking, and had like a huge hole in his chest, and they were blaming the other guy, Goro, but Like we as the
Did
audience,
he have a huge hole in his chest? Like I was trying to see the damage on him because they're like saying he got slaughtered, and I didn't quite make out the damage, especially after they cleaned him up and they moved him to the operating table, where he just had that sheet over his privates, and I was like, he doesn't look so bad.
I think on the right side of his chest there was like
the side
giant,
away from the camera.
Yeah, I think there was a giant gash.
Okay.
But maybe they kind of cut
the guy who got it later. The guy who got it later definitely had a more visible thing. So I was like, oh, maybe I just missed it. I also like, so also the beginning when they shown like the bombs being tested and all that stuff and all that footage. It's like it's so great because it looks like stock footage.
Yeah.
But you're kind of like, I guess just movies from this time period look like stock footage when you're showing this type of stuff.
Yeah, it was. Like, I don't know if there's a better version of this, because you got my copy, and it's from, like, an old DVD, and it's, like, kind of in bad shape. Like, there's kind of an orange hue to everything. So it almost all looks like, it does almost all look like stock footage. But my favorite part...
And it's very, like, square. Oh, yeah. Also...
Yeah, it's not widescreen. It's not like that Toho scope. I bet you there's some version out there that's better. I've heard that they were starting to release like 4K Godzilla movies in Japan. I just saw that they did a King Kong versus Godzilla in 4K.
Okay.
Which would be awesome with like those colors in the American footage. But I think my favorite part is when the miners go down to investigate the area. They're looking for Goro, who they believe like killed Yoshi. And they go down and there's like water flooded. And so there's 3 of them, and the first guy walks into the water and then gets pulled from below, and he starts screaming.
Yeah.
But the way he does it, it looks like that couch gag where you pretend like you're walking downstairs behind a couch. He's just looking like right in the camera, just yelling. And it's like the opposite of Jaws, where it doesn't look... it looks really silly. But I like that.
And also they tie themselves to each other too. So it's like one goes down and then the other one. The problem with the mine, was it creaking floor or creeping floor?
I thought they said creaking, which doesn't make sense unless
What'd you say?
Creaking, not creeping.
Creaking?
Yeah.
Yeah, the first time I heard it, I heard creeping, and I thought, the creeping floor would be a really great name for like a horror movie. Kind of like a house that eats people, kind of the creeping floor.
But I think it's a creaking, which didn't make sense because it's a cave.
I'm guessing it's like I guess with the idea is that when, the part of the mine they're getting into a pocket that's gonna break, there's some like warnings, like you hear things happening before the thing is gonna bust.
Yeah.
Did you have? I had a moment actually near the beginning when they come back to like from inside the mine, and there's a couple guys who I was like, oh God, please don't tell me there's blackface in this. But I think they were just covered in coal dust, but they were really, really dark.
Yeah.
When they're pulling the body in, I think. Yeah, it's just that they're coal miners. But but just because I still have a little bit of the trauma of King Kong versus Godzilla in the back of my mind.
The island,
like, ooh, careful.
The island of coal miners.
Yeah. How cool is that shuttle, by the way, to go down to the mine too?
That was cool. I like the there's a part where they drop, where the guy jumps on the mine carts and rides it down to hit the monsters.
Okay, that's great. Yeah. First of all, the bug monsters, I loved them.
Yes.
There's so much that's so great about them. The one thing, first before you even see them, there's the guy who gets killed, and all you see is the shadows and the sound.
Like as they're running, as it like does a wide shot, and you just see.
Yeah, it was like an old movie, and the music. The sound effects that represents the bug noise or when the bugs are around is very reminiscent of that movie Them with the giant ants.
Yeah.
And the way it's like you hear the noise first, and then you know they're coming, and it's just really, really great. And using those carts, and I was like, oh yeah, of course, it's a bug, so you got to find a way to squash him.
Yeah, but you could tell it was an effect, but it kind of looked cool, the way he was moving on the cart.
Yeah,
I really like that. There's this one part where the bugs, which I believe they're called Meganulon, Meganulon, and apparently they're a dragonfly. But there's one point where it invades the village, and it ends up at someone's house. But then it like scurries up a hill and like grabs two army guys and like hucks them down a hill.
There's also a part where the bugs, it looked like they were affectionate with each other. Yeah,
there was definitely parts where I thought
but there's a part where there's two bugs. They came up to each other, and they kind of like one like put his leg on top of the other one, like, hey. There's like a moment where like they were like affectionately communicating with each other.
There was a part where I thought the Rodans were gonna be together.
Well, I was like, so okay, so we find one egg
through his flashback.
Well, we had seen. Oh, that was a flashback?
Remember Shigeru had amnesia? He had seen everything go down. He got hit by a rock.
Right.
And he had amnesia. And then, like, as people are still trying to figure out what's in the mine, he looks at a nest of eggs that his girlfriend brought, and it sparked his memory where he saw the egg hatching.
Yeah.
And the little dragonfly worm guys like start walking towards Rodan as if they know their purpose in life, which is to be eaten by Rodan.
Right.
They just that's creepy. That really creeped me out.
It's also weird calling him Rodan when there's two of them.
Yeah, and I'm not really sure why there's two of them.
Yeah, because I was like going, is one the mom? Are they brother and sister? Is it that? I don't know. They kind of like, or it's like, or if they're both the siblings, so they have this egg with this motherless egg. Yeah, there was like, if you think too hard on their origin story, you kind of lose it. Other than the fact that the bomb did it.
Mm-hmm. I like the when Rodan's flying around, when you really only catch glimpses of him as he's flying through, and then he does like those contrails, which I thought was kind of weird.
Yeah,
because like unless he's like radiating heat, I guess that would make sense. But I like that idea. Like you just see that was part of the mystery of what it is, what this UFO is, and I like that. And I like that there was one dude who was chasing him in a jet, and then Rodan spins around and just clips the jet, knocks the nose cone off of it, and the thing just crashes.
Yeah, just goes by, breaks it in half. Yeah. I liked all the Rodan dogfights. Mm-hmm. Where it was interesting. Like I was trying to figure out what is it that when they fly into Rodan that makes the plane spark. It's like they go under right when they go under him. Boom! There's a spark in the plane, and you see it a lot because like they reused the same shot and the same footage to represent so many different planes fighting Rodan. Mm-hmm. Yet I didn't care.
Yeah,
like I continue being like, yep, this is a whole other plane. He got it the same way.
Yeah, usually that bothers me.
And it didn't even matter to me.
Yeah. What's funny, speaking of reusing footage, there were some shots from this movie that was used in Monster Zero. Because I remember some of the tanks. Because I remember
the tank toys were amazing.
Yeah. I think all the models were awesome in this.
Yeah.
There was one that was like a beer shop. Rodan took out a beer shop. But it seems like his wings are so powerful that they can knock pretty much anything over.
Yeah, I mean, the way he destroyed that one Jeep just by flying over it, I mean, crushed it.
And you see that dude's legs? But maybe the force of the wings is causing some sort of electrical outage on the airplanes? Maybe it's like an EMP almost? Maybe it's like...
Yeah, maybe, or it was like, or it's like the illusion that they graze him. Or there's there's a thing where it's like they can't actually knock the plane into the Rodan model because it'll like bump it and change its thing. But yeah, but it's kind of like they fly under it and then something bzz, they get buzzed.
I liked when there's a bunch of people on that bridge and you're like, oh, that's cool. And then you see there's a shot of a miniature bridge and you're like, ooh, that's coming down. Like as soon as you see it, you know, oh, that's coming down. And it did. There was a cool thing where they mixed in the dogfight also, where they would take the models and shoot it over like a real background. So it was like superimposed. Because there's a really cool shot of the 3 jets flying towards that bridge. I thought was kind of neat. Reminded me of like Star Wars, the original, where the 3 TIE fighters move in perfect sync. Because you know they're like part of the same mechanics or something. But right. I really liked the dogfight, and I kind of would like I never really thought much of Rodan as a character, but after seeing this, I'm like, oh man, they should remake Rodan with like imagine the dogfights now.
Yeah, because like Rodan as a puppet in a costume is pretty
plain,
pretty sloppy and clumsy. Yeah. But then when he's flying at supersonic speed, he's really a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
I also like when the 2 Rodans are there, so they could use. All right, we got one guy as the close-up Rodan, while the other Rodan just keeps flying over him.
I like that. Like he looks silly when he's standing. He looks silly when he's flapping his wings. But when it's just that static puppet where it's just a flat, it doesn't have any movement and it's just darting. Like that's what I want to see more of. It's just it's like a missile.
There was this thing when they're trying to cave them in. It's kind of like the same shot, just with like the film flipped, like the reverse of the film. And I was like, is that to represent the 2 of them are each in their own respective caves? Like I was trying, like there's some things where you go like, now is that supposed to be 2 different Rodans? Or is that just, here's another shot of the same thing, but really it's the same shot, we just flipped the film.
I thought it was supposed to be 2 Rodans.
Each one, right? It's like, oh, now this guy's worried about it, now that guy's worried about it.
Yeah, but it was clearly, like the crack in the cliff was clearly the exact same thing, just mirrored.
Yeah.
Which makes me wonder, like, why is there 2 Rodans? Like, other than the shots where you see 2 Rodans at once, it doesn't make any sense why there's 2. But my favorite thing, probably...
from the name of the movie, it doesn't make sense why there's 2.
Yeah. But then later they say Operation Rodan. So maybe it's based on that. There's this part where they're going through the caves and they're searching. They're looking to find the bodies, or they're looking for something. And the narrator says that the bats added to the eerie atmosphere, and it cuts to a shot of like rubber bats on strings.
Was it? I thought it was. I thought there was just like kind of footage of bats in a cave.
It looked
I thought they were.
One of them looked like it was on a string.
I don't remember. Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't pay that close attention to that moment. I mean, I remember that moment in the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't pay attention to the authenticity of the bats. I like that they had this giant supercomputer to calculate how big the shell is.
Yeah.
And then thus cool. How big Rodan should be. And then it's like, all right, a 500-foot wingspan. And so then I'm immediately sitting there, like in my head, converting it to football fields, because that's how we like to do measurements in this world. And like, at least in this country, it's like, oh, yeah, but give it to me in football fields. That's how I can better understand it.
Is it a little less than one football field? Is a football field
it's
600 actually, feet, right?
300
feet. 300 feet.
It's 1.5
football fields?
A little over 1.5.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty big.
I recognized Paul Frees as one of the voices on it.
Yeah, I wrote that down. Did you go and look up other people to see who else was
so
in
then,
it?
Yeah, did you?
Yeah.
George Takei?
Yep. And then I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right. Keye, Kai Luke is his name. He played Shigeru, and he was the old man in Gremlins. That gave,
wow.
Yeah, that gave the Gremlins. Because when I went through IMDb, I scrolled down to the voices and looked for pretty much anybody with a picture next to their name. Because I figured, they're probably in more than just this. But yeah, George Takei and Paul Frees. I love Paul Frees.
I love Paul Frees.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the sound of Disneyland to me.
Yeah. And Hardware Wars.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he does the narration for Hardware Wars.
Does he really? Awesome.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It was really easy. Another great thing about caving in that cave where the egg is that they don't have to build a full-size egg when people are actually there. So they go, oh, we found this piece of styrofoam egg, and we'll just take this to the supercomputer.
But I like that there was all sorts of investigations going on with the miners and the Air Force and the scientists. Like everyone was kind of doing their own thing, and is all like kind of culminating towards the attack of Rodan. And then, but when the cave-in started, when I'm like, they're like, we're gonna do Operation Rodan. Oh, they're hibernating. We're gonna go bury them. And I'm like, oh, they're hibernating. Okay. And then you sit there and you watch like 5 minutes of them shooting dirt, something like that. It's something close to like 5 minutes of them shooting dirt, and it's just shooting dirt over again, and I'm like, this is kind of anticlimactic. Like, are we really going to just sit here and watch them continue to fire at dirt? Like, you thought Shin Godzilla was anticlimactic by sticking cranes in its mouth, but I'm like, I'm sitting here watching dirt,
pouring stuff in his
yeah. But then the Rodans break free. The ending kind of confused me, but I loved it, and I was fascinated by it. Like, I didn't understand what was happening, and then I was like really sad about it. Were you really?
Yeah. It's like how like one couldn't live without the other.
Yeah.
And it took them a while to die, and it kind of almost like. It's as if, like, you know, they're, like, trying to get the puppet to catch fire, and it's not doing it, so they're like, dip it again, try it again. Now we got him.
Because they break free of the caves, and one of them immediately flies through the volcano. And you're like, oh, did the first one fly in the volcano, and then the second one came out and then couldn't live with each other? Is it like Romeo and Juliet?
It's kind of like it. I mean, it's so much drama in this ending. And then it also kind of harkens back the same way in the beginning. They have these big, like, kind of like poetic thing, like narration at the beginning and the end of this movie.
Yeah.
And it's just a super overly dramatic. It's like,
but the first.
At the end of The Killer.
I haven't seen The Killer.
Oh, you haven't?
Does the killer fly through a volcano for
no reason? You want me
to
spoil the ending for you?
It doesn't. Yeah, it's fine. And then the second one's like, screw it, I'm gonna go lay on top in the lava.
All right. If you guys haven't seen The Killer, you don't. You're gonna fast forward. I don't know, 30 seconds because I'm gonna spoil it for you. But basically, the killer is like this assassin, right? For like the mob or whatever. In one of his assassinations, he kind of like made a woman go blind. And so at the end of the movie, when he has this big shootout with the cop, he says, before the shootout, he says, you got to promise me, if I die, you got to give my eyes to my girlfriend. Because she became his girlfriend later. Mm-hmm. And he's like, all right, I promise. And the guy got shot in the face and messed his eyes up. So the end of the movie is neither of them can see each other trying to crawl to each other, and they're calling each other's names out, and they're trying to crawl to each other, and they're passing each other because they can't see.
Oh my gosh.
It's like super dramatic.
Yeah.
I mean, I love it, but yeah, it's super, super dramatic.
Yeah. For some reason, as goofy as Rodan looked really, really sad flopping around in the lava.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
then when he finally catches fire, it's like, oh.
This is not good.
Yeah. So there's something weird about that feel. It's like they would rather die. And it's very unlike, I mean, obviously you said this is the second one. So they hadn't quite, established like, listen, why don't we just make them like run away into the ocean?
Yeah, they haven't figured that out.
Like
yet.
Rodan could totally just fly away. That way we can save him and use him again. I mean, clearly they're going to use him again, but yeah.
Yeah. We're going to have to figure out how that happened, unless there was a third one.
And then it ends with where the voiceover is saying something like, who knows what else, will there be monsters? And you just sit there going, oh yeah, there will be.
Yeah.
That's one thing we know. Oh, hey, so Rodan, I guess, was like Radon? It's like the A and the O were switched.
Yeah, because it was supposed to be short for pterodon.
Yeah, or pteranodon.
Yeah.
Only I guess they said like the American audiences would be confused with the element radon.
Okay.
So they didn't want to call him radon.
Yeah, they didn't want any smart people showing up.
Like, oh, it's great. It's chemistry.
Great, a theater full of scientists. That's all we needed. I don't know if I have much more to say other than I loved it.
I don't have anything else to say. I loved it. It's like it's fun and to nitpick the starts that we go like, I have no idea what, like, it's like, I have no idea what the relationship between the two Rodans is, all that kind of business. But yeah, it's just like, I just loved it.
Yeah.
From the start, like from the very beginning where it's like, oh, the nuclear testing, oh, this, and then the mystery of this thing. I was like, oh, this is exactly what you want these movies to be.
And the bugs were a surprise. Like, I completely forgot about those bugs.
I was not expecting the bugs, and the bugs were my favorite part.
Yeah, I wonder if they come back.
And there's so many of them too.
Yeah,
so great. Yeah, I like the bugs a lot.
And they all walked right into Rodan's mouth.
Yeah. I didn't realize that they were supposed to be dragonflies. Like, I can see now looking at them that they look like dragonflies.
Yeah.
But they didn't have wings, did they?
No,
or were they babies?
Didn't. They might have been babies. Maybe it was set up for future animals. Because I don't think there's any dragonflies monsters until later.
Yeah. They must be like the creatures that the sectors rode.
Yeah. Uh-huh. I think Godzilla vs. Megaguirus, which came out in 2001, I think that was a dragonfly.
Oh, okay.
But it had nothing to do with this. Yeah, I loved it, and I don't really have much more to say about it other than I think you can purchase it on YouTube if you want to check it out. It's available for purchase.
Oh, really?
There. Yeah. Yeah, other than that, I don't know where else
I have yet to buy anything on YouTube.
Either have I. I kind of chose iTunes as my thing, so I don't want to spread out my purchases. But
plus, it's hard, I think, to imagine YouTube as a pay service.
Yeah,
just because you're so used to it, just kind of being handed to you.
Yeah, and I don't think of YouTube as something where I would sit there and watch a feature length movie. I think of watching like maybe short clips, like no longer than like 10 minutes. But it's available.
Right.
If you can't find it and you're looking for a place to stream it, anyone could find it on YouTube. So that's all for this show. Next show is going to be Godzilla against Mechagodzilla from, I believe, 2002. And for more information, go to kaijupod.com. I have a list up of just a ton of kaiju movies that are, possible candidates to cover on the show. And it gives you links to our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Last night we were going through a list of possible. We were like looking at some really weird kaiju there. Like, I was like, oh, I hadn't even heard of this one. Just like, some really crazy monsters out there. So yeah, it looks like this will keep us busy for a while.
Yeah. So until next time, are we gonna walk into the ocean again? I don't know. We need to refine that sign off.
No, we're gonna. Yes, we're gonna next time. Next time, burn in a volcano.
Let's go lay in some lava
with your friends. Until next time, crawl into Rodan's mouth.
Let's go.